Hey, what's going on? This is Scott at Scott Doty TV. Today we'll be talking with my good friend and colleague, Kathy Acosta.
Hello.
Kathy and I have worked together for a number of years here at BrainStorm, and she is our resident expert on today's topic. Today we'll be talking about the topic called learning disabilities, learning disorders. Let's start just by getting to know our guest. Hi, Kathy.
Hello.
So just give them a quick overview, please. What's your background in education, working with students with special learning needs, etc.?
So, like you said, I've been with BrainStorm for a long time now, 6 years. So I started tutoring, and I actually was also getting my master's in social work. So interning, I actually was working with kids that have special needs. In my internship, I actually worked on special needs cases through Fordham. They have a law clinic, and at the law clinic, we actually went into the schools, talked to the families, and won some cases.
Now, in the last few years, you've started something in BrainStorm called SAC.
Yes.
We'll talk about it more later, but give me a quick sense of what that stands for. What's that about?
So SAC is Specialized Academic Coaching. We have, at BrainStorm, tutors that I've actually interviewed, handpicked, that work with kids that have either special needs, learning difficulties, behavioral issues, whatever it is, and they also have a background with teaching, whether it's English, math. They all have kind of their own specialization.
I understand that there are two different kinds of disorders or disabilities that people will talk about in the education systems. They'll put them in categories of learning disorders or behavioral disorders.
So a learning disorder is actually something that is neurologically stopping a child from learning. So that is a learning disability.
And that's innate. They're born with it, and it's not something that they got over time.
Exactly. Behavioral disorder, behavioral issue, that's a little bit different. That's something like an obsessive compulsive disorder.
And a behavioral disorder is not innate? Is that something that they will learn from nurture? From their environment, they've learned it over time, or could it be that they were born with it?
I mean, I guess that's the great debate, right?
Another thing I want to ask you about is, okay, let's say I wonder if my child has a learning disorder or a behavioral disorder. What are the benefits of diagnosis, or are there some indicators, maybe just at the house, that I should pick up on that should give me a sense, like, yeah, your son might have this need?
I think the biggest indicator is your child struggling in school? Are the teachers telling you something? They're your best resource. They're the ones that see your child for 7-8 hours a day, and they have a lot of information on your child. I think that parents know when something's going on. So talk to your kids. Ask them what's going on in school. Do you like school? Or what's your favorite thing about school? Just having a conversation with them will really help. Or just if you start doing work with them, if you're doing the homework with them, you can tell if something's going on. And that's when I think you should talk to your teachers or talk to a specialist or get some sort of assessment. You're your child's best advocate, so find out what's going on.
Let's say that I have done all the work and I have had my son or daughter diagnosed. So what happens now? Like, in other words, how do I help my child? I want to give him resources or her resources. How can I be part of the conversation with him to be helpful?
A couple of things. I would say whatever strategies or tip you get from a doctor or a therapist or a tutor, I'd say be consistent. You have to actually try this and be consistent with it. You want to make sure that strategy definitely works or definitely doesn't work. Because you're figuring out now what works for your child. 2, I would say bring your child into the conversation. In my experience talking to a lot of students, it's, well, my mom's making me do this. If they can really understand what's going on with them, why is it different? Not to use it as an excuse or a crutch, but you say, okay, this is something that's part of me, and how am I going to work with this? Because I truly believe that anyone has to understand what they have first before they can do anything with it. They can't say, I can't. That's a word they can't use when they're with me. I can't doesn't exist, right? It's I can do it in a different way than other people.
I know. I'm a big fan of a topic called the growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and one of the centerpiece ideas of that is that you only compare yourself to yourself.
Yes.
And is that especially important for students with learning disorders?
Yeah, I believe that's really important because you're learning how to learn your way. Now, with going into a little bit about what we do for coaching, is I really believe that you have to look at your strengths and use those, not your weaknesses. Also, you have to figure out what's the best way you learn. We do a lot with learning styles. So if you're a visual learner, we're going to take your learning style and your strengths, combine that, and that's the best way you learn.
I've understood that we have these terms IEP and 504.
Yes.
How exactly are they different? What are they?
Each one is a plan, right? And a plan that they enforce in school. The IEP there are very strict laws and rules that the school must follow if they are going to put an IEP in place. So if the school doesn't follow it, they kind of can get in trouble. With the 504 plan, it's not as strict. I'm not going to say there's one better than the other. It really depends on the child's need. So a 504 plan, someone with a medical disability or medical issue of some sort, they can go on a 504 plan.
That might be like, I broke my leg.
No. I broke my leg is very temporary. It has to be something that is going to interfere in their academics, everyday life.
And then a person who uses SAC or uses you, they can give you some ideas about the diagnosis that they've received, whether they've been put on a 504 versus an IEP, and what the implications are, and how to advocate for the right plan for your son. Like, that's something that you can help people kind of navigate a little bit.
Exactly, and that comes from the advocacy piece. So we do some of that as well. Some of my families, they don't have an IEP or 504 before they start with us, but we help them through that process.
You mentioned earlier specialized academic coaching.
Yes.
You mentioned you have a team on board with you. And what give you a sense of the things that they can do?
We have a special education teachers on staff that with 25 years experience that are reading specialists.
Okay.
They have Orton Gillingham or Wilson trained for reading.
Okay.
We have therapists on staff which also have a background with special needs, also with anxiety, behavioral issues. They focus mainly on study techniques and coping techniques for those behavioral issues.
And do you do any certain assessments, interventions? Just give me a sense a little bit of, again, about the things you do and how you do it a little bit.
The best way to answer that is it depends on what the student needs. If the student needs an assessment, I can do my own assessment because I am an LCSW. If they want a full diagnosis, I can refer them to where they can get a full diagnosis. On top of that, we do academic or educational assessments where we can do the core subjects, and that's a clinical Pearson test. When it comes to models and interventions, it's customized. I do my own assessment with each family, and then I match them with the coach that's appropriate for them.
I just wanted to ask, what is it about working with that population that you love so much that makes you feel like, this is what you want to do?
So I guess it goes back to what we were saying before, building that confidence and helping a student learn what's the best way for them to learn. So if I can help a student figure that out, then I think I met my goal.
I know you do great work. Thank you for it. And so thank you for tuning in today to Scott Doty TV. Let us know what you thought about this video. In the meantime, we wish you the best. Thank you for tuning in again, and we'll see you next time on Scott Doty TV.
Bye.
Ciao.